Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us on this beautiful Friday in America. Happy Friday, folks. I hope you all had a wonderful week, and you are all ready to have a wonderful weekend, as much as I am, at least. So the war between America and Canada, of course, a metaphorical war, a trade war, I guess you can say, has begun. President Trump last night terminating all trade negotiations with Canada, announcing that on Truth Social, and the government after the government of Ontario created an ad campaign using selective audio of President Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. President Trump is accusing the government of Ontario of interfering with the Supreme Court's decision on his tariffs. The High Court is set to hear oral arguments on November 5th on the Trump tariffs after a lower court ruled they were illegal. Now, the Ronald Reagan Foundation is speaking out against what this $75 million campaign is alleging. And they put out the following statement, quote, "The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute learned that the government of Ontario, Canada, created an ad campaign using selective audio and video of President Reagan delivering a, quote, radio address to the nation on free and fair trade, dated April 25th, 1987. The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address, and the government of Ontario did not seek nor receive permission to use the edited remarks. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute is reviewing its legal options in this matter, and we encourage you to watch President Reagan's unedited video on our YouTube channel." You can watch that video over on the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute YouTube page. Now we have that video for you so we can all sit and watch and laugh as the desperate Canadians try to hurt America.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
Now, why would Canada put out a video like that to their own people? Seems just as what President Trump said. They're trying to interfere with the Supreme Court's decision coming in just about under 2 weeks. Will they make a landmark decision on if the tariffs are allowed to stay, which I don't see why they wouldn't. If we take away the president's power to govern, then what really is a president? Joe Biden had the power to govern. He did whatever he wanted. You remember, he forgave student loans when the Supreme Court said you can't do that. Continued, and nothing happened to him. So if the Supreme Court should come back and say no dice, I think President Trump should look back at them and say, well, too late. Joe Biden went against you guys on student loan forgiveness. I'm going against you on tariffs for the betterment of my country, to which I was overwhelmingly elected to go ahead and do. Now, Carney was asked about this commercial and asked about the repercussions of it, as President Trump wants nothing to do, apparently, with them now. Take a listen to what he had to say, rather interestingly.
Now, what we can control, absolutely, is how we build here at home. And that's the focus of Budget 2025, generational investment here in Canada. And what we can also control, or at least heavily influence, is developing new partnerships and opportunities, including with the economic giants of Asia, which is the focus of this trip.
So that's what he's going to do. He's going to go over to China right now, or they're all heading over. The leaders are heading over. President Trump will be departing in just a few hours en route to Malaysia for a series of meetings with Asian leaders. That's what Carney's going to do. He's going to go over to Asia and beg China. Put his knee pads on and get on his knees and beg and glaze. Xi Jinping, please do business with us. That's fine. There's one problem. There's a little bit of a waterway between China and Canada. There's Not really much between Canada and America. So that's fine. Go ahead, go do your business. Be the end of your country. The prices will go through the roof. That's fine, though. As you all know, Canada's been having a little bit of a problem with their elected leaders. Carney, a Marxist, Democrat, if he were to be in America. He watched what happened to Justin Trudeau. So I think he should tread lightly and figure out what he's really going to do and what he wants to do before he wants to take this tough guy stance with Donald Trump. Because there's no world leader who's won yet against Donald Trump. I don't think, something tells me Carney's not going to be the first to win against President Trump. I just don't see it happening. Earlier today, Big Tish James, New York Attorney General, turned herself in Norfolk, Virginia, where she's fighting a little bit of some trouble. She's in trouble, I guess we could say. She decided she was going to do mortgage fraud and insurance fraud, and she got busted because nobody is above the law. At least that's what Big Tish told us. So now she'll have her day in court where she could defend that she lied about her mortgages on her mortgage papers, said she was married to her father for more favorable loans. She'll have her day in court. The government, folks, if you're wondering, 24 days, it's still shut down and most likely will shut down through the weekend. Things are just getting weirder and weirder and weirder. Yesterday, we told you the Marxist Democrats voted against opening and paying our essential workers. They don't care about air traffic controllers. They don't care about our military. No, they don't care about them. But it's getting weirder and weirder now because some Democrats are starting to come over to the Republican side because the writing is on the wall for them. Take, for example, Senator John Fetterman, who did this video earlier today with Dave McCormick, his fellow senator from Pennsylvania. This is when you know things are getting a little weird.
Here we are in Washington, D.C., and it is shut down. But now here, it's both Pennsylvania's voice here in the U.S. Senate, even though we are in a different party. And we both want to talk about why we believe it's so important to reopen this government.
23 days, 12 votes. Senator Fetterman and I have both voted to open up the government. We agree on that 100%. It's really starting to hurt Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, it's air traffic controllers, border patrol, and also 2 million recipients of SNAP. We've got to get the government open. That's our main responsibility. And I'd say that regardless of what party's in the majority.
So I think we both, our votes are about country over party at this point. And now we have 2 million Pennsylvanians that rely on SNAP. That's going to stop. And now you can now reopen this government and have an earnest conversation about extending those tax credits. We know we're going to participate in this process. That's why we both vote to open up our government. We're in a different party. We're on the same team for Pennsylvania and our nation.
Pennsylvanians expect it. Pennsylvanians deserve it.
Was John Fetterman standing on a cardboard box or something? Because he is a giant. Kind of funny. He speaks in limericks. I've gotten to actually like the guy. Don't agree with his politics or his policies, but I like the fact that he's open to working with the Republicans, whereas no Democrats are because they're Marxists and they hate America. We're going to be joined in just a few moments by our good friend. There's no better way to wrap up a show week, to wrap up a Friday than with our friend Roger Stone. He's going to be joining us in just a few moments to take up all these issues. But before that, I want to get to one more issue before we go to Roger. Jack Smith, Junkyard Jackal Special Counsel. Try saying that 3 times fast. He wants to go testify before the Senate and House Judiciary Committees because he wants to clear his name. He believes some of the work that he's done has been, quote, unquote, mischaracterized. What part about it, Jack? The part where you're extremely Trump deranged? The part that you have a mental derangement syndrome of Donald Trump? The part where you sent the FBI to raid Mar-a-Lago and Melania Trump's underwear drawer? You freak. I'm looking forward to him going before the committees because you can just tell by looking at Jack Smith. He's just a weirdo. The guy is a total freak. And I think once he gets before that committee, some of those members on that committee, he's going to crack under pressure. It's going to be a force to admit the truth. That he was just a lackey. He was a little water boy. I just withheld what I was really going to call him. But in the interest of a family-friendly show, that he was just a lackey for Chris Wray and a lackey for Merrick Garland, and that he was just doing the bidding of the Marxist Dems and the rhinos. So I think it's going to be good to get him in front of that committee where he can lie or perhaps tell the truth. I guess we'll have to wait and see. We're going to take a quick break here, folks. On the other side of this quick break, we're going to be joined, as I promised, by our good pal, Roger Stone, the host of the Stone Zone, fan favorite, weekly guest here on the Great America Show. If you join us on YouTube, Twitter, Rumble, please be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. Please, 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 we're begging you. We want to continue to grow the show. We're doing a good job at it, but we need your help as it takes all of us. We're coming right back, folks, with the Great America Show. Please stay with us. Happy Friday, folks.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, MyPillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Roger, happy Friday. As always, a delight to have you with us, especially when it's a Friday. Let's start with first, Big Tish James turned herself in Norfolk, Virginia this afternoon. She says she's innocent. She didn't do any of the fraud. Last night, Roger, Congressman Goldman, Kathy Hochul, congressmen and senators and all people in the state assembly held a rally, a vigil is what I guess it's closer, saying that we cannot let Donald Trump and his DOJ do this because if we do, they're going to weaponize the Justice Department.
So let me get this straight. The people who weaponized the Justice Department against Donald Trump,
Yes.
who charged him with a crime because he borrowed money from banks for real estate development loans. Banks that did their own due diligence determined that the collateral he was putting up were sufficient. Loans that he paid back in full, in which they made $40 million in interest, that was a crime. But Letitia James lying for 43 years about every single mortgage she's ever received is not a crime. She is one of the most mendacious, vicious, ugly, disgusting, obvious, low-class criminals I've ever met. It's an open and shut case. Now, whether you can get a left-wing judge in the Eastern District of Virginia and a jury dominated by leftist Democrat activists to convict her, I don't know. But I call on Mike Johnson. Mike, this is simple. You move a articles of impeachment regarding the judge, and you send him up for hearings. This is how you have to respond to this. I looked at the Constitution, John. It's very interesting. No place does it say that the judicial branch has more power than the legislative branch. Yeah. So when judges act politically, they must be held accountable, and that means removing them.
Yeah.
At a minimum, even if you can't convict him in the Senate, they have to go through life saying, Your Honor, no, you're not. I'm not going to rise. You are not honorable. You have violated your oath of office. We have to hold these crazy left-wing judges accountable. The Constitution provides for it. You simply move articles of impeachment and you set the trial date, and they have to come up and defend themselves and their rulings.
You got me crying here, Roger. That was one of the best lines I've ever heard you say. Your Honor, I will not rise because you are not honorable. No, you're absolutely right. If they ruined your life and they try to ruin your life and they tried to ruin, it's time that we flip the coin. President Trump's case in New York, Roger, was it Judge Engoron, that freak, the weirdo? He was judge, jury, and verdict. There was a no jury case. It was up to the judge, and he said, let's do whatever we want to do.
No, you're absolutely right. There's more to it. I can tell you right now, because there's an ongoing project. Of the millions of dollars that Letitia James received through Act Blue, 70% of those donations are fraudulent. They are from people who do not exist or people who have now signed affidavits saying, no, I didn't give that contribution. So you have campaign finance fraud. I think ultimately you're going to find that she's also guilty of tax fraud. This is just beginning, Tish. All you have is one indictment. You have many indictments coming, I suspect, in other jurisdictions. I also think she probably has superseding indictments in the Eastern District of Virginia. No person is above the law, even when they weigh 300 pounds and they're eating collards.
I try to watch Alex Jones a lot because he says some crazy things, but in between some of the crazy things he says is a lot of buried truth. And he claims that there is impaneled juries all across the country for various different people, which Big Tish could be one of them. One of the ones we're having a little bit of issue with is pencil neck, pencil everything, Adam Schiff. Apparently the rogue deep state prosecutors in Maryland are claiming that they don't have enough evidence and they don't have a strong enough case to charge Adam Schiff with mortgage fraud. It's very, very cut simple, Roger. Yeah. You have one residence you live in. That's your primary residence, 6 months and a day. If you are not there and you claim the other residence as your primary residence, bam, it's black and white. It's mortgage fraud. Either he did it or he didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I'm hopeful. I don't know if this will happen, but the president should fire the U.S. attorney in Maryland because they're wrong. I spoke to David Schoen, who is perhaps the preeminent criminal defense lawyer in the country. He has reviewed all of the documents because they're a matter of public record, as you know, John, regarding Adam Schiff. There's no question whatsoever that he is guilty of an indictable crime. And this is without looking at his tax records, because as I understand it, the Department of Justice has still not ordered the IRS records for Adam Schiff to be made available to the U.S. attorney or to the Justice Department. So there's a voting rights crime in California. You cannot be a principal resident of Maryland and be a congressman from California. It's highly illegal. So the question here to me is, does Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, and the U.S. Attorney in the District of Maryland, both appointees of President Donald Trump, do they have the intestinal fortitude to prosecute Adam Schiff or not? I know people who are drafting bar complaints against both of them right now, and an argument could be made they're not fulfilling their duties. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but in preparation for this show, I did consult David Schoen, who I think is one of the most brilliant lawyers in the country, who concluded, without any question, Adam Schiff is guilty of crimes. By the way, the same kind of crimes that Letitia James actually indicted, charged, and convicted people for.
Yeah. The thing that's odd to me, there's reports, Roger, I don't know if you saw these, but earlier in this week or late last week, President Trump called everybody into the Oval Office. And by everyone, I mean Kash Patel, Lindsey Halligan, I believe, was there, Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, and he pretty much said, what the F are you guys doing? I mean, guys are sitting on your hands. And then we've also heard, Roger, over the last month that there's been some sort of rift between Pam Bondi and Lindsey Halligan, simply for Lindsey Halligan doing her job as the new U.S. attorney, interim U.S. attorney for for Virginia. What are you hearing about this rift that Pam Bondi just doesn't seem to want to do her job?
Yeah, I must tell you, I have not heard any of that. I did notice that Lindsey Halligan brought yet another indictment yesterday on an entirely separate criminal matter. So she's doing the job. Perhaps there is, some jealousy with the administration because she's not only extremely smart and extremely capable, she's also extremely beautiful. By the way, I don't like the way the media keeps denigrating her as, quote unquote, an insurance lawyer. She was a senior partner of a major law firm where she headed their civil litigation department, has extensive experience with juries, probably more experience with juries than Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Yeah, Pam Bondi, the old saying, Roger, either crap or get off the toilet. We can't constantly hear, and I think, in my opinion, Roger, she's sort of holding Kash Patel back. I think Kash is probably trying to do the best job he can do, but I think she's holding him back a little bit just based on these reports that she's abhorrent and angry that Lindsay Halligan is simply doing her job. You're hearing the same thing from Todd Blanche, who I don't know. I've never met. I've never even spoke to him as the assistant AG. I think it's time for her to do her job, or she's got to go. We don't have much time, Roger. We've really, if you think about it, we're a year now. We're coming up on a year to the election, so that's 3 years. And the president really doesn't do anything the last 4 or 5 months. So we're down to 2.5 years now. 2.5 years to get indictments on a lot of people, Roger.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look this up for you, John. Lindsay Halligan won yet another victory. A Pakistani national yesterday was sentenced to 40 years for transporting Iranian-made advanced conventional weapons. So she's doing the job. She's doing the job the president appointed her to. James Comey, as you know, is trying to dispute her authority, saying that because she's serving as the interim U.S. attorney and has not been yet confirmed by the Senate, would not be confirmed by the Senate, because we have this game. You see, when Joe Biden was president, the Republican senators, even in states where both senators were Republicans, moved to confirm the U.S. attorneys. It's the way it's always worked, unless you're Donald Trump. Yeah. Now, when you're Donald Trump, you have these obstructionist senators like the two freaks from Virginia. They refuse to approve anybody other than the deep state operative Eric Siebert. Eric Siebert, who frankly, because he failed to disclose the fact that in the Comey case, his father-in-law, that is to say his wife's father, is James Comey's daughter's godfather. To me, that's a bar complaint. That needs to be filed with the Virginia bar. And the thing I like about bar complaints is they can't be swept away. They have to have a hearing. And the lawyer in question has to be questioned in front of the bar. So I suspect that Mr. Siebert has multiple bar complaints coming. He's going to have to defend his law license because of his serial misconduct as the U.S. attorney.
Let's turn to another bad cop, Roger. Jack Smith. He's out today. He says he wants to clear his name because there's been mischaracterizations in his investigation into President Trump. Yesterday, we find out that Chris Wray and Merrick Garland, personally, both of them set up Arctic Frost, the whole premise to the January 6th sham investigation. Smith's lawyers sent this letter to Chuck Grassley saying, quote, given the many mischaracterizations of Mr. Smith's investigation into President Trump's alleged mishandling, now there is no mishandling because he's been cleared of that, of classified documents and attempting to overturn the results of the 2020 election, Mr. Smith respectfully requests the opportunity to testify in open hearings before the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. I'm all for that because just based on looking at Jack Smith, he's going to crack like an old piece of rubber, Roger. You can just tell he's one of these Trump deranged Lilliputians.
Yeah, I would like to see that as well. General Flynn and others have supplied in a formal complaint to the Justice Department a series of documentations of Jack Smith taking enormous bribes when he was an international prosecutor. Right. So, yes, he should be asked about those bribes very specifically under oath when he appears. Why the Justice Department has not moved an investigation into Mr. Smith, between the spying on U.S. senators, between this depraved idea that disputing an election, that just saying I don't agree with the integrity of the count in the last election, that's a crime, which of course it isn't under the First Amendment. Every American has the right to do that. I would like to see him. Go to hearings, but I think that the topics at hand need to be extremely broad, including his conduct at The Hague.
Yeah, he doesn't get to call the topics, and if he wants to do that, let him come in and get blindsided. It is what it is.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
You've got to answer questions, Roger. If Trump had to sit in a courtroom and answer questions about an alleged rape in a Bergdorf Goodman fitting room 65 years ago in a store he's probably never been in a fitting room before, Trump wears the same exact suit, not the same one, but the same version of a suit, the same exact shirt every single day, the same exact tie every single day. I don't buy for a second that Trump was shopping at Bergdorf Goodman. If Trump had to do that from 40 years ago, Jack Smith should have to answer on his questions, on these questions, because it's a background of ethics, Roger. If you had this man who was extremely unethical when he was working in The Hague, what's going to stop him from being unethical when he's investigating a man that he hates his guts?
No, I think there's very, very substantial evidence that Jack Smith used extra legal tactics in his efforts to get Donald Trump. For example, Mr. Smith, talk to us about your conversations and your coordination with the prosecutors in Nevada, in Arizona, in Georgia, and in New York. Anybody in your office ever meet with Alvin Bragg or the luscious Letitia James? I'd like to hear the answers to those questions.
Can you explain something to me, Roger? Because I still don't really understand it. And if I don't understand, the audience is probably a little perplexed too. This whole alternate elector thing, isn't this something that's done every single election for electors, alternate electors? And what was there going after them for? Can you explain that?
Sure. I couldn't say that it's happened in every election because not all of our elections have been close. But for example, if anyone will read extensively about the election of 1877, which was very disputed and ended up, in the courts and so on. But the most classic example is 1960. 1960, in the skin-tight race between Vice President Richard Nixon and Senator John Kennedy, on election night, it appeared that Nixon had carried Hawaii based on the vote count. And therefore, Nixon filed a slate of electors who expected to be seated. John Kennedy disputed that. His campaign believed that once all the absentee ballots were counted in Hawaii, that Kennedy would emerge the victor. So they filed an alternative elector slate. Now, nobody in John Kennedy's campaign got charged with a crime because having an alternative elector slate in place contingent on litigation, meaning you're preserving your rights to be seated if litigation over the outcome of the election in that state were to go your way, is not a crime, has never been a crime, unless you're Ari Melber and you're this tall. This guy invented this into some kind of crime. It's not a crime. It exists throughout our history. But again, there are different rules for Donald Trump. If you dispute an election, you're an election denier. Now, that when George Bush beat Al Gore, that every Democrat in the world claims that election had been stolen, but none of them were charged with crimes. No one ever said that was a crime. You've seen the videos of all these sick individuals in the Senate and the House, various Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, and the rest of them. I mean, it's the two-tier justice system.
Speaking of these idiots, Roger, in the Senate and the House, I mean, you've got Democrats who went on the record yesterday, Roger, and they voted against pay for our air traffic controllers, for our military members, for anybody who's on the front lines who have been working and haven't gotten a paycheck since October 1st. They had the balls, Roger, to go out and vote against this. How do they ever win an election again when the American people, almost every single American person has gotten on a plane at some point in their life, and you think to yourself, well, they don't give a damn about us if we get in a plane crash, God forbid, or something happens.
Well, John, you understand the real problem, of course, and that is to what extent are the American people who have, the struggles of their everyday lives paying attention? So you and I are paying attention because we eat, sleep, and breathe politics.
Unfortunately.
But the average American, I think, has figured out that the shutdown of the federal government hasn't affected their life in any way whatsoever. The mail is still being delivered. Social Security checks are still being delivered. So what was this all about? I mean, the fact that bureaucrats who don't even bother to show up in the office because there's no real work for them to do anyway, but continue to make millions of dollars on the taxpayers, are furloughed, that hasn't affected the lives of a single American I know. I don't know anyone who says, oh, my life is terrible because the federal government is shut down. That simply hasn't happened.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just sad, though, that we've come to this point. We've come to this inception point when the Democrats have gone just absolutely rogue, Roger. They are absolutely lost their minds, as Donald Trump puts it. Last night, President Trump, Roger, before we wrap up, President Trump let Canada know he's terminating all trade negotiations after the government of Ontario fraudulently used ad campaigns featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. Your thoughts as the Canadians now want to try to play by the Donald Trump book. It only works for one person, at least I've seen in my lifetime.
Well, John, the Canadians are very, very nervous because under the Canadian Constitution, any province can secede from the Union and seek their independence. So right now, there are very active movements in Saskatchewan and Alberta, two of the most conservative provinces. Now, in the case of Saskatchewan, this is a huge problem because most of the wealth in the country comes from those two countries in terms of uranium, oil, natural gas, rare earth minerals, and so on. So the hardworking, more conservative people in Western Canada, principally in Saskatchewan and Alberta, they're kind of sick of footing the bill for the people on the eastern part of the country that don't have any, natural resource wealth. Now, under their constitution, if a question is put on the ballot, say in Saskatchewan, which is being worked on right now, they can become independent with a simple majority vote of the people. There's nothing in their constitution that prevents this. Now, once they became an independent entity, they could apply to statehood with the United States. The poll numbers are overwhelming in Saskatchewan. They're also quite positive in Alberta. That means, theoretically, if both were to become states, which of course would have to be ratified by a majority of the U.S. states, from the border of Canada all the way to the state of Alaska could all be the United States.
Oh, that would make the liberals' minds explode. Anything Donald Trump's for, obviously, the liberals are against. But that would
by the way, also get you 4 more conservative Republican U.S. senators, which I'm sure they wouldn't be very happy about, and a slew of new House Republicans.
I can hear the Democrats, Roger, quivering right now, as they have been for the last month or two. I'm sure you've been following the news, Roger, of this new wing that President Donald Trump is putting on the White House. I don't know if you've seen this video, but this is the demolition that they're doing. Pretty amazing. We'll watch it together. I've watched that video about 20 times, and I laugh at it every single time. Yeah. Why are the Democrats so upset about Donald Trump throwing down a part of the White House that nobody uses? It's quite frankly obsolete. What's their deal? Why do they care?
Because they hate everything that Donald Trump does and anything he does. They didn't complain when Truman made huge renovations to the White House. They didn't complain when President Taft do it. They had no problem with even Richard Nixon putting in a bowling alley. They didn't have a problem with that. But it's because it's Trump. Now, the one thing I do think it lacks is the flashing on and off Trump neon sign. I do want to see that. That would really be ideal.
I heard that if they don't approve the ballroom, this is option number 2. Waffle House on the side of the White House, and if they don't approve that, they were going for a more of a elegant look, and it was the White Castle at the White House. So they better get in line. Raj, before we wrap up, we got to talk about my favorite person, Rosie O'Donnell. She's calling for an economic blackout here in America. She wants every restaurant to shut down. She wants every business to shut down. Big fat Rosie wants America to implode. Is it going to happen? Are we going to listen to Rosie O'Donnell?
Well, hasn't she left the country?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, last time I saw her on the air, she had a really nasty looking cold sore. I don't know
what that is.
I hope she's doing much better. No, look, no one cares what she thinks. She's a typical Hollywood celebrity, out of touch with the working people of America. As I travel, I find people are very happy with the state of America. They feel much better about America's future. There's more economic opportunity. There's certainly in our big cities, there's more security than there was. I saw a survey of African-American voters the other day. Donald Trump's support is actually skyrocketing in some of these cities because, well, people's children and grandchildren can play in the front yard without fear that they're going to be shot in the head by some gangbanger because Donald Trump is removing these dangerous, illegal criminals through the greatest mass deportation in American history. So what you're getting here is real results from a real president, not some guy sleeping in his basement.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Roger Stone, the host of the Stone Zone. Roger, what do you got up tonight for the Stone Zone? Who's your guest and where can people listen?
I got to be honest with you, John. People can listen tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern by going to WABCradio.com. I've invited a very special guest. I don't have an answer yet as to whether he's going to make it. But last night's show was amazing. I interviewed Martha Byrne, who is the wife of Mike McMahon. Mike McMahon is a New York City police detective who was framed by the Biden Justice Department because while retired and working as a private investigator, he uncovered the fact that there were two Chinese communist illegals who had embezzled millions of dollars. One guy was actually the former mayor of Wuhan. You can't make this stuff up. But rather than deporting them because they lied to get in the country, the Chinese official and his wife, in order to avoid embarrassment, the Biden administration charged Michael McMahon, an honest and highly decorated New York City police officer, sending him to prison for 18 months, claiming that he had violated the Foreign Agents Registration Act, when in fact his client, as a private investigator, was a U.S.-based company. No evidence that he took any money from any foreign entity. So it's the epic corruption. It was a great interview. You can go on WABCradio.com and listen to it, or you can also go to stonezone.com. We have it posted there. Great interview with Martha Byrne. You may remember her. She was a very famous soap opera actress in Days of Our Lives and Hospital and a number of other huge hit shows. But she came on the show as a wife and a mother who needs her husband out of prison. I've written a very good piece on this at stonezone.com as to why President Trump should pardon this brave New York police officer, Michael McMahon.
Yeah, Martha, I met her maybe a year or 2 years ago, and she wanted to come on the show. I actually got to text her. I texted her. Crazy story, absolutely absurd, crazy. But it's what the new Justice Department has turned to, Roger. We've opened our eyes now where back in the day, anyone who went to jail, I'd say was automatically guilty. Now I'd say it's probably 50-50 with how corrupt the Justice Department is of people who are in jail. I'm glad that you never got to see the light of day of being in a prison cell because the left would have won at that point. You were saved by God and President Trump, and we thank him every day for that. The great Roger Stone, catch him tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time, WABCradio.com, thestonezone.com, where you catch him 24/7. Roger, we'll see you next week, my friend. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, John. God bless you.
Thanks to Roger Stone, folks, and thank you all for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We'll see you back here on Monday. I almost said tomorrow, but I realized it's Friday, and we're all getting a day or two off for the weekend to enjoy some college football in the NFL. Make sure to get your sports bets in and consult with Chauncey Billups if you need any insider information. Just being facetious, of course. Folks, we'll see you back here Monday for The Great America Show. Truth, justice, and the American way. You know where to find us. 6 p.m. each and every weekday here for The Great America Show. We'll see you back here Monday, folks. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless America. And may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Have a great night, everybody.